By the name, Teacher Okongo Frederick. In biology, our today's topic will majorly be on plant and nutrition. When we talk of plant and nutrition is one of the characteristics of living organism. We have 7 characteristics of living organism. One of them is nutrition. So nutrition is the process by which a living organism acquire and utilize the food. So plants are able to acquire and utilize the food, as well as animals. So when we talk of green plants, they are able to make their own food. The process by which the green plants make their own food is called autotrophs. So they are able to acquire raw materials in the presence of light energy to make their own food. So we call the plants as autotrophs. So under the plant and nutrition, we'll majorly check the process of the photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. What is photosynthesis? Just from the word photo means light. So the light, then synthesis is to manufacture, is to make. So photosynthesis is the process by which the plants uses the raw materials to make food, which is carbohydrates, in the presence of light energy. But how do the plants acquire light? How do the plants acquire light? Most of the plants which are green in color, they have what we call chlorophyll. The chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is found inside an organelle known as chloroplast. So chlorophyll is the green coloring matter which is found in the chloroplast. Majorly, its function is to trap the light energy which is being used during photosynthesis. For photosynthesis to occur, we need raw materials and we need conditions. The raw materials that we need in photosynthesis, I will indicate here. The raw materials that we need in photosynthesis, one is carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. 2, water, which plant absorb from the soil. So the 2, carbon dioxide and water, are the raw materials for photosynthesis. Then light, which is from the sun. The major source of light is sun. So this is a condition that require. Then we will need the optimum temperature. So we will write the equation for the reaction. How do this occur? How do this occur? So when you combine carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight or in the presence of light energy, I will get glucose, which is the product. So this side is the product. So you get glucose. Glucose is one of the carbohydrate. We call it simple carbohydrate. So that is as in the biomass. Then oxygen is a byproduct. You release oxygen. Oxygen can still be used in the process of respiration. So my products here, there are 2, glucose and oxygen. My raw materials, or the raw materials for photosynthesis, will be carbon dioxide and water. Then the condition required is the light energy. So the light energy are converted to chemical energy to be used, because sometimes the plant may not be able to carry out the photosynthesis during the day. So some plants in the desert do carry out photosynthesis at night, which we call, they have got the reverse stomatal rhythm, where they tend to close their stomata during the day and open them at night. Therefore, there will be no process of photosynthesis during the day. So light energy has to be converted to chemical energy to be used in photosynthesis. So we have said, I've shown you the condition, and this is word equation for photosynthesis. The carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of light, that light is being trapped by chlorophyll, and you get glucose plus oxygen. Then the chemical equation, any chemical equation, you have to balance. And how do we balance that chemical equation? Carbon dioxide, CO2, plus water, that is HO2, will give you the glucose. Glucose, that is a simple sugar, and oxygen. You just balance it 6, 6, 6. So the product, you have to know the product, and you have to know the two raw materials which are required in photosynthesis. You note that the product, which is glucose, will be used by plant, or can be used by plant during respiration, as well as the oxygen. So these two materials, they still can be used by plant. So this glucose, once it has been manufactured, it is transported to the storage regions in the plant. How do we store it? We cannot store glucose because glucose is osmotically active. Therefore, we have to convert glucose to starch for storage. Starch is osmotically inactive. Sometimes we say it is insoluble. The insoluble starch can be stored. The areas where we store the starch in plants can be the leaves, the stem, and even the roots. So those are the storage regions. Like, let's talk of sugarcane. In sugarcane, we store, it should store its food in the stem. Cassava, it stores the food in the roots. The kales, which is sukuma wiki, it stores the food in the leaves. So there are so many areas where we can store those substances. We store them in form of starch. So once the glucose has been formed, it is being converted to starch for storage, because starch is insoluble or it is osmotically inactive. So it can easily be stored in that form. How do we transport glucose in plants? So once the glucose has been manufactured, we transport it through the phloem. There's a tissue in plant called the phloem which transport the glucose to the storage areas. So we transport it through the phloem. There are those factors that can affect the rate of photosynthesis. Factors that can affect the rate of photosynthesis. Already, we have talked about the raw materials required for photosynthesis and the conditions of the environment that you need for photosynthesis to take place. What if this raw material, they are inefficient or they are in excess? Can they affect the photosynthesis? So that is what we are going to see. So when we talk of factors affecting photosynthesis, 1, we'll check the raw materials. 2, we will check the conditions. Are they there? Are they enough to be used during photosynthesis? So I'm going to indicate some major factors that affect photosynthesis. We are going to talk of 3 factors that affect the photosynthesis. Just the way I had said, we have to check the condition in the atmosphere. One of them, the presence of light. Is that light, the quantity of light which is there in the atmosphere, is it enough? The light intensity. When we talk of light intensity, This is the quality and the quantity of light that reaches on the surface of the earth. So the light intensity in the atmosphere. When we talk of carbon dioxide concentration, amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. When we talk of temperature, normally we say the optimum temperature because we have got low temperature and high temperature. Then we have got the temperature required. The temperature required will say optimum temperature. So how does it affect? When it is more, when it is less, what will happen to the rate of photosynthesis? Let me start with temperature. Temperature. Temperature, you know that increase in temperature will increase the kinetic energy of the molecules. The molecules tend to move faster when there is high temperature due to increase in kinetic energy of these molecules. They knock one another. Therefore, there's high rate of movement. And even to the enzymes will be very active. The action of enzyme. When I say enzyme is a biological catalyst that speed up or change or alter the rate of reaction without being used. So when I increase the temperature, high temperature increases the kinetic energy of the molecules, and those molecules are part of the enzyme. Therefore, the reaction tends to be faster. At low temperature, what will happen at low temperature? At low temperature, there's low kinetic energy, low movement of the molecules. Therefore, the rate of respiration is also a bit lower. So let's start with temperature. Temperature, the diagram which I've just drawn here, you can see this is change in temperature. So we have got increase in temperature from 0 to around 40. So at 0, you realize that the rate of photosynthesis is low. At 0, the rate of photosynthesis is low. I've just said the effect of temperature. Temperature increases the kinetic energy of the molecule. So if it is low, the kinetic energy of the molecule is also quite low. Therefore, the rate of photosynthesis will be low. Where does the temperature act effectively? It acts effectively at the optimum temperature. The optimum temperature is around 37, 38 degrees Celsius. So the optimum temperature is the temperature required for effective rate of photosynthesis. That is why from the graph you can see the highest point, peak of the rate of photosynthesis, it has this point where the temperature is around 37 or 38 degrees Celsius. So you will indicate that as the temperature rises, so as the rate of photosynthesis also increases. Just from the graph. As you want to discuss this graph, because you may be asked, discuss the changes in temperature. How does it affect the rate of photosynthesis? So you say as the temperature rises, so as the rate of photosynthesis also rises. At this point, the temperature is the limiting rate until it moves to the optimum point. So why is it low? There's lower temperature. So it increases up to the optimum point where it is the maximum point. Above the optimum point, you see there's a slope. The graph will go down. So after the optimum, what will happen? That is extreme temperature. Extreme temperature, it denatures or destroy the enzyme. It denatures the activity of the enzyme. Normally, it distorts the shape of the active site of the enzyme. Therefore, the substrate enzyme combination will not occur effectively. Therefore, there will be drop in the graph. So, you explain the graph accordingly. You start by increase in temperature increases the activities of the enzyme, therefore increasing the rate of photosynthesis. Optimum temperature, that is the best temperature for photosynthesis at the peak. Then extreme temperature will denature the activity of the enzyme. As indicated, so that is around temperature of which approaches 45. So 40, 42 and above. 45, the enzymes are denatured, and therefore the rate of photosynthesis will fall to 0. No enzyme, no photosynthesis, because enzyme is majorly required for the chemical reaction to take place. The chemical reaction between carbon dioxide and water will require enzyme. Once they are denatured, the graph will fall to 0. There will be a slope. So you discuss this. In this scenario, we'll assume all other factors will be the limiting factors. There is a provision of enough carbon dioxide. There's a provision of enough water for this process to take place. So those other factors are the limiting factors. They are constant. Then we have the carbon dioxide concentration. The second one is carbon dioxide concentration. Carbon dioxide is one of the raw materials which we have just talked about being used during photosynthesis. But its concentration in the atmosphere, how is it important? So the amount of carbon dioxide that is in the atmosphere will determine the rate of photosynthesis as well. Sometimes there's low concentration of carbon dioxide in air. If there's low concentration of carbon dioxide, there will be less raw materials for this process to occur. Less raw materials, less or lower rate of photosynthesis. But what will happen as you increase the concentration? So you indicate that as CO2 increases, so as the rate of photosynthesis increases. At this point, the CO2 is our limiting factor at a slightly lower. So as you increase it to now the maximum level, it will flatten. Why is the graph will level off? This scenario we say that it levels off. Why is it leveling off? Because you have supplied enough carbon dioxide and other limiting factors are kept constant. The limiting factors in this situation will be the carbon, the temperature, water, and even the light. They have to be constant. That's why it levels off. In the side of carbon dioxide, there's no curve in the slope. It just levels off. So you take that into consideration. The light intensity. When come to the light intensity, I said, how do you define the light intensity? The amount of light that reaches in the atmosphere. So the plants are able to receive this sunlight in a given quantity. So normally in the morning there's low light intensity. In the midday, during midday, there is high light intensity. Then in the evening, again, there is low light intensity. So the amount of light intensity will increase depending on the time of the day it also depends whether the changes in weather, whether it is cloudy. So the light intensity, you will also explain it the same way. Increase, as you increase the light intensity, so does the rate of photosynthesis increases. So that one will depend on the time of the day. As at this point, that is at this point, the light intensity is at moderate amount. We say the limiting factor or the required factor. If you increase it continuously, if you continue increasing the light intensity, you will see the graph here, it levels off. Why does it levels off? Other factors like carbon dioxide concentration and the temperature will become our limiting factor at this point. Limiting factor, which means they are at the required amount. So they are not exceeding at this point. So whether you increase the light intensity to what level, the rate of photosynthesis will not exceed at this point. It levels off. So this is what you will explain, or you may be asked, at what time of the day do the rate of photosynthesis is high, or at what time of the day do the rate of photosynthesis is very low? Explain. So you will be explaining about the light intensity. Remember, the light is being used in breaking down, because the light energy is being converted to chemical energy and being used in breaking down the water molecules and to allow the chemical reaction between the carbon dioxide and the water molecules as well. So these plants will produce the glucose. That glucose is what can be used in respiration, just with the same plant. Also, the oxygen produced can also be used by plants. So in plants, there is no waste product. All the product, the byproduct and the major product, they are useful for the plant. Though the animals can also consume the product from the plant. So plant normally maximize all the chemical reaction in its body. For the plant to grow, for the plant growth, or for this photosynthesis and making of the product like carbohydrates, this process is also being facilitated by other materials. Other materials like the mineral salt. Normally, the plant absorbs water from the soil. At the same process, it also absorbs the mineral salt from the soil. The mineral salt and water are being transported through a tissue known as xylem tissue. So once these substances are taken to the leaves, they are being used in the process of photosynthesis. The glucose is being formed. Then the phloem transport those products for storage. So we are going to check the plant mineral requirement. Which minerals specifically are required by plant for the better growth or for a healthy growth? So there are some of major minerals that plants need for better growth. These minerals are commonly known. One of them, magnesium. Where do you use magnesium? The nitrates. Where do you use the nitrates? The phosphates. Where do we use the phosphate? The potassium. So most of the fertilizers which are in industries, you will find that during making fertilizers, they normally combine these minerals, put them together, and ensure that the quality fertilizer must contain those minerals for better growth of the plant. But this one will also differ or will depend on the type of plant. But now we will learn about the common ones which almost all the plants require, the minerals that are required by almost all the plants. So I've said majorly the fertilizers are manufactured in the industry. What do they use? They will use these elements, that is nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So these are the elements that are being used in manufacture of fertilizer. Just to start with, when we talk of the nitrates in plants, how is the nitrate important? Nitrates, we normally get it from the nitrogen, is normally being produced in the nitrogen cycle. But we can also directly put the nitrates in the soil to be used by plant. What it is used? Plant uses the nitrate to make amino acids and then the protein for better growth. So for better growth of the plant will need the nitrates. That is why it is one of the major requirements of the fertilizer. Then phosphates also are required by plants to make the DNA. So phosphate is one of the requirements for the plant in manufacture of DNA. What about potassium? Potassium to make the plants green. Potassium or magnesium will make the plants green. So this will produce the healthy plant. So the mineral required by plants, a student need to know and understand them. That will be the end of this topic. Next time we'll talk of importance of other mineral salts.